So about 5 years ago, I'm sitting there in the couples therapy office with my wife at the time. And we've been there for about 3 sessions, just starting down the road of divorce. And my therapist looks over at me and she says, "You know what your problem is? You feel undeserving of love. So you married someone who doesn't love you." And I was thinking, well, that probably wasn't a good decision. I mean, I'm not a licensed psychologist, but she was right. I knew immediately that she was right. And I started thinking back on when that identity came on, when I started feeling undeserving of love. And I remembered a time that I was trying to forget back when I was probably 6 or 7 years old. And I was a talkative kid. I had all these ideas and I had to verbalize everything. So one night my mom pulls me into the kitchen and she says to me, I think I'd been particularly loud. I was with a friend that day and I'd been joking around, just trying to make people laugh. She said, "Do you know what the Chinese water torture is?" And I said, "No, I didn't." And she said, "Well, it's when the Chinese used to, and let me first clarify, this was actually invented by the Italians in the 15th century, this form of torture. I guess just the president called it the Chinese torture to try to place the blame somewhere else. They used to just tie somebody down, drop water on the person's forehead like this, and we just hit their forehead, and it would drive them mad, and they just insane, and they'd be done. And my mom said, when you're joking around and trying to make people laugh, this is how I feel. I feel like I'm being tortured. So from now on, when we're out and I see you doing that, and I want you to be quiet, I'm going to do like this." And of course, I didn't. Oh, I can feel the weight of it now. I didn't really appreciate it back then, and I knew, then I kind of needed to be quiet. That kind of silenced me in many ways. After my divorce, I got into a long-term relationship with someone. It was wonderful. There was love there for sure, but there was also she also fulfilled this need that I had to confirm that I was undeserving. So in March 2020, when COVID hit, all conferences were canceled. So all of the gigs I had planned, all the MC events, they were gone suddenly, almost overnight. And that caused a little bit of anxiety, thinking, okay, how am I going to pay the bill? How am I going to pay the bills? And trying to deal with that stress, usually what I do is I go to the gym, I do spin class. I need to work out. I kind of need to be in a room full of people judging me versus just being at home. The gym was closed. You toss that in with anxiety eating, and I gained my COVID-15 pretty quickly, probably in record time. By April came around, I sunk into a depression. I did exactly what I did after the divorce. I just withdrew. I felt undeserving of love. I felt undeserving of friendship, and felt undeserving of God, and pulled out of my church, withdrew from my faith, stopped praying. One day, like in May, it was a beautiful day outside, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go for a walk. And it was so pretty, and I didn't have anything to do. I just kept going, and I did 3 miles, no problem. Came back home, and thought later in the day, I said, I'm gonna do another walk. I mean, I don't have a job. There's nothing else to do. So I went for another walk and was able to pretty quickly hit 8 miles a day. I don't think I fully appreciated the benefit of just being outside, getting a little sunshine, being in nature and moving. But I was happy that I was at least getting one thing done. It's like, okay, here's one thing in my life I can control. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to walk. So I'm in this Facebook group of marketing speakers who are also interested in fitness. And I just wrote a post. I very reluctantly wrote a post about being stuck and just walking outside and taking a few steps and doing what I could do. And a friend of mine, Liz Phillips, reaches out and says, "Hey, would you like to join my running team? We're doing a virtual run called Medford to Medford. We've got to cover 3,400 miles virtually in 80 days. The most important thing for me was just being part of a community. Even though it was virtual, just feeling like there was some connection and all working together toward one goal. I challenged myself to at least once or twice a week check out a new state park, either in New York or Connecticut, and just explore that and get my miles there. And so I started taking pictures. And then friends started commenting on these photos, said, "Wow, these are pretty cool." Then my buddy Lee Odden says, "Hey, when's a coffee table book coming out?" And I thought, all right, I've been struggling in writing a book for 15 years, but I could probably do a coffee table book. Finally, a pathway on how I can get a book written presents itself thanks to Lee. I also got a group of new friends, and I dropped the COVID-15, thank goodness. But I ended up with this confidence of, wait a minute, I am deserving. I'm deserving of being a walker, a hiker, and maybe even a runner. That prepared me for the next invitation that came along. It got me to a place where I felt good enough to say yes to the next invite. And that was this winter. A local running shop sponsored the Frozen Feet Challenge for 6 weeks. Every single day, you have to get out and either walk or run 1 mile, no matter how cold it is. And I thought, okay, I'm going to sign up and I'll last a couple of days because, I'm not going to run if it drops below 40 in Connecticut. Started taking small steps, and you have this community on Facebook that's kind of cheering you on. And you realize, hey, I do have something to say. I can make people laugh in some of these posts. And there's some value in me speaking. And I would find myself out snowshoeing at 6 in the morning, 4 degrees outside, and we'd be snowshoeing for an hour. This is something just a few months earlier I would have never believed that I could do. And it was just those baby steps and saying yes. So a few weeks ago, my friend Carla Johnson invites me to come join her and her team for the Bryce Canyon 30K in Utah. My first response was, oh, heck no. But I had this sense like this is an invitation I'm supposed to say yes to. This is way out of my comfort zone. Instead of withdrawing, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to reach out to people who I feel unqualified to ask a favor of. So I reached out to a friend, Mike Rogers. He coaches our little running group, and asked him if he would coach me. So Mike puts together like this 4-dimension spreadsheet on my running plan. My friend Megan Searfoss, she's an Ironman. She's won Lake Placid in her age group. She's been to the World Championship in Kona for Ironman a couple of times. And she owns the local running shop here in Ridgefield, Connecticut. I love this. Like just 2 months into the pandemic, when all the retail shops were shutting down, Megan opens up a new one in Darien in the middle of the pandemic. It was amazing. She got great coverage from the press for pulling it off. So I reached out to her and I said, listen, would you be willing to sponsor me? She said, sure. She said, you have a village, I'm in it. I went to her store on opening day just to support her, take some photos, post some things. And she introduced me to Heather Peck. Heather won the last Boston Marathon. She won her age group. So I had this amazing conversation with her. She talked about nutrition and training, and these very simple ideas about starting to get a little bit more mileage. That's all you want to do every day, get a little bit more mileage. And of that mileage you get, have a little bit more be running versus walking. She made it really simple for me. Instead of withdrawing, which is my usual approach, I turned this into reaching out to people. It's helping me let go of this old identity of feeling undeserving. And it's confirming that I am worthy of friendship. There are times when I'm definitely tempted to have regret over the last 20, 25 years, living my life this way. We always have a choice on how we respond to things, about what anybody tells us. And it's just taken a long time to let go of some of those things. But when I'm tempted to feel regret, I always think about my kids. I wouldn't trade anything for those kids. And I'm so grateful. The only way I could have had those kids is taking this path that I did, even though it's painful. This path has taught me how to parent in a different way. Sometimes I will get home after a long day of travel, and Matthew will want to talk for an hour about the latest Star Wars conspiracy theory. I'm thinking, man, I would just like to have some peace and quiet. But I tell you what, never, ever will he know that. I am locked in and I'm asking questions. I'm like, wait, so Darth Maul was Rey's grandfather? How could that be if he's Presbyterian? And the one job I have as a parent is to make sure my kids know without doubt that they are loved unconditionally by their father. And there's nothing they can do to change that. I'm just now realizing how difficult it is to let go of an old identity, even one that I know is so destructive. I just need to keep moving forward physically, just taking simple walks to get my whole body and mind unstuck, and then everything else seems to move. I need to continue to remain connected to really encouraging people like my faith community and this community of runners. I need to be available in those little moments to say yes when people reach out with an invitation. I need to reach out to friends and ask them for support and expect, like all these other people, they're almost waiting for me to call them. And I need to allow myself grace for the past and remember that every single moment up to this point has served me because it's gotten me exactly to the place I'm supposed to be.